What's happening?
What's happening with you, my son?
How you doing?
Another generation. Last week it was granddaughter,
Jessica, yeah.
who I just saw on a video a little while ago.
Good, I saw that too. Good job, yes.
Okay, so everybody's freaking out, and I thought this morning, you know what? Let's see what happens on Real Beach Talk if we had a real recession, and is it bad or is it good, or is it normal to have a recession? And I said, it's normal. Well, what happened in the other ones? And I remember what happened. And I said, well, you know, I'm getting old and been through 4 recessions. You've been through a couple. There's 2 generations. We got thousands of agents that we've dealt with during all these different things.
Yeah.
And it isn't as bad as people think. Now, the recession is a recession. It's a cooling down of the economy, which is pretty good. When I walked the beach this morning, there were hundreds of people on the beach chilling out that you don't see people.
But here's the thing about this though, and this is all controlling the narrative of what's going on in the marketplace. What is a recession?
According to my other son, two quarters of continuous downturn.
In GDP.
Yeah,
Right.
not 4 days of the stock market going crazy.
I think that's an important distinction though, right?
Yeah.
Because here's what's happening. Everything's going in uncharted territories right now. That doesn't mean it's...
Wait, first of all, so we get the generations straight.
Yeah.
Is there a question on whether we are in a recession, or there's actually no way to avoid a recession, or is there a way to avoid a recession?
There is not a recession yet from a strict definition scenario. Is the market totally in a sideways, weird ass, what the F is going on scenario? Absolutely. Are people freaking out and panicking? Yes. I have people in my office today coming to see how they can get out of contracts and doing things that they're supposed to do. Freak out, yes. Official recession, no. Heading that way, potentially, if something doesn't change. But could something change? Yes.
What could change to make it not a recession right now?
Well, you have to go by the definition of recession.
No,
You have to have multiple quarters,
Yeah.
which are 3-month increments. So that's 6 to 9 months of continuous decline in GDP. Now, there's no doubt about it. We are in a spiral down bad cycle of earnings right now, but that's not a quarter full. That's a couple weeks full, but it's not a quarter. So I'm going to take the optimistic role on this one, because I have faith that once people breathe and works its way through the belly, that I think the fundamental underlying aspects are going to be okay. Are people losing their jobs? Are people freaking out? Yes. Is there going to be a stimulus plan created? Yes. Will that solve things? Maybe eventually everything does. So I'm here as the voice of reason.
Oh, Mr. Beggins, thank you so much for adding.
Well, think about that. Let's take that for an equation. Okay, is this an election season?
Yes, it is.
Huge one.
Yeah.
Does the current president want to be reelected?
Yes.
Are his chances of being reelected extremely low if the economy is in a total shit spiral in
Yes.
November? Yes.
Yes.
So he has every motivation in the planet to get this thing back on track before November. True?
What is this thing?
The economy. And
The economy? I thought you said we're not in a recession.
Well, we're not yet. We're not yet. But if we have consecutive quarters of downward GDP, then we all would be in a recession.
What could cause the GDP to increase in the next quarter?
A vaccine, a low casualty rate, a lower than expected spread rate of the virus, and people to actually realize that not everyone's going to die, and that can cause it.
Do you think? Well, first of all, the vaccine. Has anybody said they could develop a vaccine in shorter than a year?
Depends on who you ask. People saying, yeah, good, yeah.
Okay.
But who knows? That's the question. That's why everything is in up and down, because the markets hate uncertainty. Everyone hates uncertainty. We hate uncertainty, and with uncertainty, you're screwed, right? So we have to get certainty back, and it's not coming right now. I mean, look, we're just talking to the head city officials in this particular town, and they don't even know what the hell they're doing. What are they closing? What are they not closing? What are they going to mandate? What are they not going to mandate? What's the restaurant? What's a bar? What's this? Who's going to close? What are they going to do? They can shut hotels down. What's going to happen? Are they going to quarantine? Are they going to do mandated quarantines? Are you going to be forced in lockdown? Don't know. Is air travel going to be suspended? Don't know. It's interesting to be able to timestamp these, by the way, as St. Patrick's Day 2020, when we're actually talking about whether or not we're all going to be trapped in our homes in the next couple of days.
Okay, so the rant that you just went through was what I didn't want to go through today at Beach Talk. And I said, you know what, I can just cancel it. I don't have to do the damn thing. I get away with it, everything, because no one has to go to work, no one has to do anything. You could just chill out.
Right.
I said, what do we have? We got a bunch of real estate agents that are freaking out, as are brokers, as are buyers and as sellers. Do I put my house on the market? Do I not? All the other stuff.
Yeah.
The indications are that with what's been happening in all the different areas, the economy is going to be greatly affected. Whether you want to wait for
already.
3 quarters to see whether that's going to happen or not, or say, hey, what if it does happen? What is a recession? Is a recession weird, or is it something that naturally happens in the course of economic events? The economy heats up, gets real hot, and then people say, I'm not paying this much for stuff anymore. And then they tell their neighbors that, and then everyone says, I'm not paying for this stuff anymore, and it causes the economy to go down.
Right.
All right, that's a normal reaction in the economy.
I'm not saying we're there yet. I think it's a
Okay,
premature statement.
I am saying we absolutely are there, and we're way beyond that.
I think we're heading in that direction.
When you throw
without a
something
curve.
in there that like a virus or something, then you just accelerate all that stuff. One difference that I see that makes this a lot worse than any other recession that I've been in is the internet and the fact that people can get good, bad, or indifferent information immediately. You said, what's the stock market doing today? And in 8 seconds, you knew what the stock market was going today. But if the stock market, if it said on that telephone that stock market was down 1,500 points or up 1,500 points, you had no idea which one it was going to be.
No clue.
Right?
And the days of 1,500 point spreads were huge. Remember, like, oh my God, now it's like a normal occurrence. Oh, well, it's only 1,000 points today?
Yeah, well, it's up today or it's down today, but more than it's ever been in history up or more than it's ever been in history down.
Right. And people are getting desensitized because nothing really makes sense at the moment.
Yeah, well, that's what I wanted to do here and say, does this stuff make sense? Is it a normal occurrence in an economy for it to heat up, take a break, go down, then come up again?
Yeah. I interesting, just different perspective on it for just a second. So that's like saying the market is doing something, right? And we always talk about there is no real market. Now, if you're Amazon or Clorox, right, you're not in a recession right now. If you're heavy loaded on those stocks, you're in really, really good shape. Zoom's up 75%, Clorox is nuts, Amazon's crazy. A lot of the airlines heard they're going to get a bailout, they're back up. So it depends. But if you're sitting as a holder in Outback that just shut down all restaurants for the next month, you got some issues. So
Okay.
There's everything up and down on that.
Well, take percentages of the population. How many people in the population don't own Amazon and will be affected by what happens when Outback shuts down?
Yeah.
You know, so 90% of the population is affected. Well,
That's
100% is
100%
affected
affected.
in one way or the other. But what are the things in a recession in real estate that would be actually good for the people in this business? So we're not Amazon, we're real estate brokers. We just talked about investing in more property,
Yeah.
you and I.
Yeah.
All right. Though would that be crazy to do that?
It's not crazy because we have a 4-month window of due diligence on the piece of property, which in my view, we're going to be out of this mess by then, I hope, or at least we'll have clarity as to where it's going. So
Okay.
that's the only reason to buy something, in my opinion right now, is
I think
if
that
we had to close
we
today, I wouldn't do it.
totally disagree, 100% opposite on 4 months from now, whether it could be good or it definitely won't.
You're saying it
I'm
will
saying-
definitely will not be?
We will definitely be in a recession that is gaining momentum 4 months from now. And
I'll take the bet.
And I'm doing this beach talk to be a positive thing in knowing that recession is going to be that way 4 months from now. But the people that are working with us will actually see more benefit than any other industry that I know about or that I can get involved in.
I think we can agree on one thing. I'm not going to buy into the label of the recession because I don't think we're going to get there. I think we got a problem. I will agree that we have 6 months of shit coming, right?
Okay.
Without a label,
Shit
right?
coming. Okay.
And
shit is a
shit,
bigger-
recession, whatever you want to
bigger
do it. But
bigger
really,
recession.
but I don't want to label the R word because I don't think it technically will be, because I think there's going to be forces at play that are they're gonna recover, because there's a lot of smart people that don't want this thing to go down. So I think within 6 months, I predict we will be back with full confidence and moving in the right direction. Between now and then, I think we got some issues, but
You're out of your mind.
let's see.
Get my
Timestamp it.
granddaughter back on
Timestamp it. Let's watch it. We're gonna replay this.
God, and I can't get my
And
other son
April,
here
May,
either.
June, July, August, September. On mid-September, we're going to replay this one. We're going to see which one is right. We're either stabilized in a strong economy leading into the election, or we're in a massive shitstorm and everybody's will work for food signs. It's one of those two.
Okay, I'm going to ask you.
But wait.
I have 10 things, and I'm going to ask.
Let me segue this, right? Segue to this. I agree with this list, but only in a 6-month window versus a global economic doom scenario that you're portraying. So if we can.
No, I'm just predicting we went up real high, we're going to go down real low. At some point, it's going to come up again. It's happened since I've been a broker 4 times in the world. So,
Yeah.
at least in this country. So the 10 things that I came up with are really good things about a recession. I want to see if you agree with those things, because frankly, I'm the old generation, unfortunately, or fortunately.
Fortunately.
You're the middle generation. We have Jessica in the younger generation. We're all affected by this in different ways. Look at the virus. They're saying it's the old guys that are going to get in trouble. The young people are not going to get in trouble that much. But who knows?
Nobody knows.
A slowdown in the economy, number one, is a cooling off period. Have there been things that have been heated up so much that it's causing a lot of stress in individuals? With the stock market as high as it's going, should you be buying and it's going up more? Should I grab it? Some people saying it was going to go to 30,000, 40,000 points and all this stuff. And there's a lot of pressure out there. Should I do this? Do I have enough money? All this other stuff. So once that happens, there is a cooling off, kind of like people chill out and say, let's walk the beach today, rather than worry about it.
So this is a global beach walk.
A global beach walk.
Okay, there we go.
And I don't know much, but I do know a lot about resort area, beach areas, because that's where I've lived my whole life, right?
Yeah.
And through 4 recessions. And I know that a recession is a cooling off, and it's kind of a way for families to get back together, even though because they're unemployed or whatever. But so it is a cooling off period. And number 2, it gives you a time to rethink your life. I'm talking to a lot of people about, okay, we've been through all this stress for the last amount of time. When I get over this one, I am going to do this. I'm going to retire. I'm going to buy a motorhome. I'm going to buy an airplane. I'm going to go live in the mountains or something like that. So it gives you a chance to redo your life, which is called your primary aim.
So I see we're walking the beach doing primary aims already. See?
Yeah.
See?
Well,
It's
you know,
true.
I'm going to get to personality
true.
profile too, right? All right, so
But it's true. It's a true story. I mean, from a real estate agent perspective, right now, I think you're going to have some time, definitely, to think, right?
yeah,
Because only real people, real estate, that actually have to buy and sell are buying right now, or actually really identify the great deals and opportunities, which I think is one of your next ones. There.
well, number 3 is relief of daily pressure. Look at the relief of pressure to go to work. Almost anybody in the world can make an excuse why they're not going to work today, and people will say, thank God you're not coming to work today.
Yeah.
All right. Number 4, reduced competition. This is one that in the real estate industry is a guarantee that I've seen
Yeah, I agree with
every
you on that.
time we've had a recession. And the numbers that I used from the last one were 3 million real estate agents licensed in the United States in 2008. In 2012, there were 900,000. 2.1 million agents decided, this ain't for me.
Yep.
And now we're up at 1.3 million, 1.5 million or so.
Right.
Now, this one, some people think this one's not going to recover for a very long time. So if you're on the fence and saying, well, I wasn't doing that great in real estate, I really like it, but no one's ever going to buy real estate again, let me get out of here, right? So when the competition goes down, and I would say it's going to go down to fewer agents than the last down.
I agree with you. This is an interesting twist on that point there. We just recruited an agent yesterday I was talking with, and I said, look, nobody has a clue what the hell is going to happen here, right? We really don't. But if I were you, and if you actually have this as a real career where you're dependent on this as your income, I would think about who your leadership is at that point in time, right? Because I mean, I go to you with advice to finding out what's going on. You've been through it. You've been there, done that. We've been through some, not as many as you have. I have, but I got some the scars and the ass kickings, right, to go along with that. But most of the brokers and most of the agents have their licenses after 2008, right? So if you've been in this business for 12 years or less, you have no clue what it's like to get punched in the face and kicked in the ass. And guess what? You're about to get punched in the face. And if you have a broker, right, is just an agent that had their license for 2 years and took another test. So if a broker is able to just open up a brokerage with no experience and holding the helm in a rough sea, they're out, right? And their whole little crew is gone too, because they're not going to know what the hell to do. So when you're going to have some rougher seas, as that analogy continuation there, you better have somebody who knows what the hell they're doing, right? And so I think there's way too many agents that don't know what they're doing, way too many brokers that have never been there before, and I think the level of freak out and bankruptcy and office closures are going to be pretty significant this time around.
Let me give you another twist on what you just said. I think if I came into the business in the last 10 years, I would consider the last 10 years being punched in the face and kicked in the ass. Because what I saw over the last 10 years was a whole bunch of different companies coming in that made me not feel good about the job that I had. I wasn't, customers didn't think I was helping them. Mm-hmm. People didn't think, they thought they were paying me too much. They would go on to this big name company that advertised on the internet or whatever. And it's a business that I didn't have a whole lot of pride in. Now, if you take what is really happening, and in my experience, and at one point I invested money in the stock market and went to a seminar and put a little bit of money into something and lost it like right away. And I was so thankful, because that got me out of that thing and said, I'm never going to do that again, because I don't have any control over what people are going to do in the stock market.
Right.
And then I found out over the years that people have made their fortunes in two ways, stock market or real estate. And those that are really good, that made a lot of money in real estate, sometimes they did stocks too and back and forth. Mm-hmm. But they really specialized in one or the other. And it really made no sense to specialize in real estate over the last bunch of years, because the stock market was making so much money for people. But now look at what's happening. Stock market is scaring the hell out of everyone, and real estate's fairly stable right now.
With the lowest rates
it's at the high end, and people are still buying it in spite of what's going on.
But I was talking to one of our sellers, and obviously we get some freakouts, right, going on right now. And one of the sellers was talking about saying, what do I need to do right now to sell this property? Right? And that's a question that you can't take lightly, right? It's like, what do I do? And the reality of the situation is, in the last 10 years, it's been an order taker business. I mean, you put a property on the MLS, you market it, a buyer finds it, and they call you because you're in the middle of the transaction. Unfortunately, you have to help them through. And it really wasn't extremely difficult to do. But now it takes strategy, positioning, marketing, intelligence, and sales and advocacy, and really, really, really running a business like a business, which I don't think a lot of people are. Their game is up to par on that one. So I mean, because the answer was, how seriously do you have to sell this property? Because if you don't have to sell right now, I think you should take it off the market at the moment, because people don't know what the hell they're doing, and let things ride out, unless you have a better use for the money. And if you do, then that's an entirely different conversation we need to have. It requires a lot of time, a lot of skill, and a lot of work, so we can actually strategically evaluate your property, the positioning, the market, the competition, and figure out what you have to do to be the next property to sell to the buyer that's in that price point in that marketplace. And that requires true marketing, true attention, and once you get somebody through the door, you better know how to identify that DISCVAK and be able to talk to them and be able to gain that trust and rapport and get them to trust you in a transaction, because they're going to rely on you to push them over the edge in an uncertain time.
Can't they just call it offers.com?
Not anymore.
Offer in 24
Not
hours?
anymore, sorry. If you had that stock, I'd sell it. Right now, you're going to need some serious skill, which is why you're going to see a migration out for the non-salespeople that just kind of wanted to look pretty and on Instagram and sell a house to somebody. Those days are likely over. You're going to have to be a real salesperson now to actually bring some value to your clients.
Well,
I'm excited about it.
I don't want to scare people by what you're saying 100%, because I don't think you have to be a great salesperson in this next market. I think you have to care about the people you're dealing with, and you better know something about the property that you're dealing with and the area that you're dealing with.
Especially. Well, let's define salesperson for a second, just so that doesn't get taken out of context.
Wait, first of all, let's get to my point of, if there were 3 million people last time and it went down to 900,000 and now there's 1,500,000 people, my prediction is we'll go down to 600,000 or 700,000, because this is a commission business, unless someone's going to raise some money to pay salaries to real estate agents. So that means the buyers and sellers may have to take somebody to work with them that is not as great as they could be. But we can make the agents as great as they could be if they specialize in certain niches.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to urge people to stay in the business, because it's not going to take any urging to get people out of the business. A lot of them are just going to...
Well, I think you're bringing a word into it that hasn't been in a while, and it's called business.
Yeah.
Right? You're urging them to stay in the business. How about you're urging them to figure out this is a business, right? and actually open your store daily, stock your store, attract people into your store, and give them good customer service while they're in their store, so they come back and buy again from your store.
Right.
Isn't that a business? And those are the fundamentals that a lot of people have kind of been able to drop over the years, just because there's always been a new shiny client that you didn't really need that repeat referral.
So is the location of your store pretty critical in an economy that is fluctuating?
Depends on what you want to attract into your store. I think that's a realization agents have to come to pretty quickly. Is you design your store, right? You're either the Dollar General, right, or you're the super high-end boutique Sac, right, or Louis Vuitton, whatever you want to call as an example. But they have totally different business models, totally different marketing, totally different niches, totally different customer service, totally different expectations of the customer walking through that door.
Okay, so where are we now? On
Number 5, I think we just...
number 5, values of agents increase because the numbers of agents decrease, and the need of the buyers and sellers increase because they don't know what to do because of uncertainty about the market.
Now, for sale by owner, it's not as easy as just going to Home Depot with a Sharpie anymore, writing your number. You actually are going to need some help. So the agent's value is going to be appreciated more, those who actually understand how to run their business.
Number 6 is one of my favorites, and it's great deals. So, first of all, in the last few years, I don't think there have been that many great deals around. They were always going up, but why do you see great deals coming about now?
Well, it's supply and demand, right, of market forces, right? So before, lots of people wanted to be real estate investors, right? Everybody was a flipper,
Flippers.
right? Everybody became a developer to build townhomes, and we see the cycle a million times. And that causes people to make poor decisions from the buy, because you make money on the buy, right? As soon as you buy a piece of property, you either made money or didn't, but you did it right then. And I think that there's not going to be that opportunity is not going to be around. I think fewer people are going to be chasing the deals, which allow sellers to have to come down to a little bit more reality, because there's not as many people chasing a dream. There actually be real people saying, wait, I'm not going to pay that for that lot. I'd pay this for that lot, right? If I can build this, but you're going to have to give me some time to make sure I can build it, and then I'll pay you that, but not this. And I don't think there's going to be a whole bunch of other people backing up that offer saying, yeah, but I'll do this. Because right now, or a month and a half ago, it was, well, I'm not going to take your offer because I got this guy telling me he's going to give me this, and I got that guy calling me and saying he'll give me an offer too. So the cockiness level of the seller side was a lot higher. And I think that trickles down to what's acceptable from a buyer side. And then buyers decide what's acceptable for their risk tolerance. And I think they don't have to be as risky when markets soften a little bit.
Perfect. Great financing. This one's a great one. What is happening with financing right now? The money supply.
It's going to be interesting. It's well,
before
the Fed,
this thing really hit the fan, we looked at interest rates going below 3%.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In the twos.
Yeah.
Then we
wrote mortgages the lowest in the history of mortgages. Remember we were talking about that at the sales meeting?
Yep.
We actually wrote a couple of mortgages that were the lowest rates ever, the history that's ever been recorded for mortgages origination. That's pretty historic.
One of our recessions had interest rates for housing at 18 to 20%. And you know what? People still bought houses. But they were so creative that they would have some investor come up and give them a mortgage at 12% or 11 or 10%. Mm-hmm. And those people made a lot of money until the market corrected itself. Now we're at such low financing that people that are in their houses right now can refinance their loans mm-hmm. and save a lot of money, mm-hmm. or they can buy other properties. So they're not going to be able to borrow the money to invest in the stock market like they can borrow money to invest in real estate.
That's a lot of the people are doing cash out refis now too.
Yeah.
For now, until the banks might tighten that up pretty shortly here.
So that would be number, what do we got?
But I think more great deals are coming. More great deals are coming.
This gets into the stuff that I know about and I like the most. We are in a great state of the union right now in Florida. Why?
Well, look at our beach right now.
Yeah.
It's jammed. I mean, you don't get more perfect weather. You don't get more perfect. One of the buyers who came in today doesn't live in state, or let me be careful how I say this. Has properties out of state and properties in state, and is migrating in state to change their taxable basis, right? And that's a lot of people are migrating out of New York and all that stuff to homestead down here in order to save the state income tax rate. So it's a couple $100,000 tax savings for this particular individual by being here in this state. And then he's like, if I'm going to have to be quarantined somewhere, I'd rather be on the Gulf than anywhere shut down. But no, I mean, this is the spot.
Well, look at California, for example. If you're going to pay 13-15% state income tax, and you pay none in Florida,
right,
and you can buy a $9 million house that's in California for $1 million in Florida, and pay no state income tax. You want to go any deeper into this stuff?
Well, I think that, well, here's the detail. We have a lot of things that can eat us here that they don't have, so that's the difference in interest rates. You've got snakes and sharks and alligators and all kinds of things rolling around
walking along
corner.
the outskirts of LA a couple weeks ago, it was pretty dangerous.
A couple people might want to eat you there too. But I mean, there's pros and cons to it, but lifestyle-wise, now, here's what I predict. You want to get into predictions for a second while we pause this in the middle of this?
We're up to 8 so far.
But this is
agreed with all of them so far. Right?
I agree with everything except your definition, the R word. but everything else is fine.
Well, I would say depression too, so
I know you
we
would.
won't go that deep
I know you would.
today.
But
we are in recession.
Here's the market shift that I'm excited about right now.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening in San Francisco right now? Today, what are people doing in San Francisco right now?
Absolutely nothing, because it's
Where are
shut
they
down
going?
100%
Where are they going?
to jump off the Golden State Bridge.
They're staying in their house,
Yeah.
right? And they're not going anywhere. What's New York doing right now?
They're not going anywhere.
What's Florida about to do? Not going anywhere, right? If you had to choose a place to be stuck, right, this is an interesting place to be stuck. But here's where I'm going with this one.
So a new ad campaign, Florida, the place to not go anywhere.
The quarantine capital of the world. But here's what's happening. What is everybody having to do for their work right now?
Stay home and watch the computer.
Okay, work remotely.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everyone's going to realize that works just fine. What do you think is going to happen?
That could be a huge revelation,
Right?
that we find out now that people can work from
So I would rather be working looking at the Gulf of Mexico and some dolphins jumping in the background than a pile of crap on the sidewalk in LA,
Yeah.
right, where we just walked through last week, right? If you got to choose which one you're going to live in, and one you get taxed on, one you don't get taxed on as much, I think you're going to see, honey, why the hell are we living here? That conversation is going to happen a lot over the next 30 days. And our web traffic is going to go through the roof, and our deals are going to go through the roof for that aspect of it. Because I think there's going to be a lot of migration internal to your point, cooling off and rethinking life. When you're quarantined in your house in Peoria, right, and you realize that you could be living over here, I think you're going to see a lot of that happen. We're on the good receiving end of that scenario.
So it's a great state. We agree with that. That's number 8. Even better, great beaches, and this is a real beach talk. So everything that you just said about the crap in LA and San Francisco, we're finding out the same thing right now in, I hate to say it, but Tampa, where mom and dad are not going to work. They're working at home partially because the kids are not going to
That's
school,
right. That's
and
right.
the kids are driving people nuts.
Yep.
And the people at home are, and we have our photographer Jonathan with 2 young children, who he's fortunate to get out of the house, but if he was stuck there all day, he would say, Hannah, let's
It's across the street from the beach.
go across the street to the beach and take the kids over.
That's right. Let's go build some sandcastles for a couple
Well,
hours.
how about Tampa? Well, we can be there in a half hour because there's no traffic.
Yeah.
Except for coming to the
That's a
beach.
really
The
good
rush
point.
hour is in the morning and the afternoon to the beach and back now.
I bet there's a
Instead
lot
of
of
the
people.
office.
Now, everyone's going to be scrolling Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and everything right now, right, for the next few weeks. And I bet you there's going to be a lot of subtle screw yous, right, when they're watching, hey, quarantine's not too bad when people are jumping in their pool and hanging out on their boat,
Yeah.
right? And if you're not able to do those things and you have the ability to do those things, I think you're going to have a lot of cooling off, rethinking of life, saying, why are we living in New Tampa? Right? The drive to your office, which clearly isn't necessary anymore because you're pretty productive from your computer. And even if you did have to drive to the office, why wouldn't we just move over here? It's the same drive in.
Because I'd have to be home with you, honey.
That's a side note. I think you're going to find out a lot of spouses that wish their spouses were home more eating those words in the next few weeks.
Start politicking for no more remote working.
That's right.
I got to have him home all day? Are you kidding me? And the kids too?
That's right.
Wow.
Yep.
All right, so Great Beaches has another thing going for it, and that's something that's been coming up. The final vote is for the state of Florida to authorize short-term rentals throughout the state of Florida.
Cool. That's
Now
a whole different talk.
the people in Pinellas Park are going crazy now because now they're going to be able to rent their little homes short-term rental and make a ton of money.
Yep. Nope.
Nope. But people on the beaches are going to be able to rent their houses short-term and make a lot of money. So when you have no money because your job just laid you off, and you find out that your duplex that you live in, you can rent out on a short-term basis, then you have another industry that's coming up in the state that is the best state in the whole union. Now you have a whole new industry coming in short-term rentals.
Yeah.
But people like to live where people like to vacation. So they don't really care about a short-term rental in the middle of the state, but they do care about one on the beaches.
Yeah.
And so when people realize that, then they say, my house is worth a lot of money. Or this house that I buy here, rather than buying one inland that might be $100,000 less, I can make that $100,000 more in a year and a half of rental income.
Right.
So we got a whole new business organization that's starting in the beach
Which is scary too, because
that most agents don't even know about.
right, that's a scary thing too. But that involves another set of risk factors, right? Because if you're relying on the rental income, that's a risk factor in itself. I mean, if they truly do ground all air travel this week, then if you're relying on the people coming from Toronto, they've already closed their borders, right? What are you going to do for the next 30 days when you got Zippo income? Do you have the reserves, and do you have the gut to throw up in your mouth for a month or two while no one's booking in your unit? That's the risk factor of investing too.
I had a thought about that this morning, looking at the little place that we have an interest in and saying, oh man, people are going to stop coming to that. But there is a tremendous market in renting that little place from people from Tampa.
Yep.
I mean, come.
Oh yeah.
So we will probably do all right with that.
I just had a conversation. See, there's opportunity in every crisis, right?
Yeah.
There's also a lot of government employees that I was just talking to a guy today that they're looking for places to stay for the next 4 months for something else that's going on related around here right now. So we have long-term contracts, and we'll probably be putting some of those up. Right, so those are some other opportunities too. Government contracts. I don't care what they have. It's government contracts.
We change now, right?
Right. Well, everything adjusts, right? So that's the list of 10.
Number 10 is more important than any of them.
I agree.
And it's called Acres of Diamonds. You remember the story about Acres of Diamonds? Can you repeat it?
That you've
It
got.
was in Africa.
And the guy's farming his land.
Was farming his land and digging in the droughts and the dust coming up and what happened?
Gives up.
He gives up and he says, the hell with it. We're in a recession. I'm going to sell my land. So some guy comes in and buys the land for a cheap price because it was 2021 and we're in a huge recession.
Oh, there's the R word again.
So what happened?
Starts tilling the land, preparing it.
The
new guy does to try to figure it out. And he finds something a little bit underneath the soil.
Yeah.
And it happens to be
diamonds.
There you go.
Acres of them.
Because he focused on his soil and he worked his spot.
Okay. So, acres of diamonds where we live encompass barrier islands on the beaches.
Yeah.
In Pinellas County. We also our company works on the barrier islands in Sarasota County.
In
Manatee County. And there are also
maybe more.
Yeah, and Naples and Miami and the Keys, and these are all acres of diamonds. And here's something, if you don't get anything else out of this today, these acres of diamonds, a great number of people that live on the land, like the old guy that was digging and wanted to sell his land, don't realize that underneath their land is acres of diamonds. One reason, because the state is about to make all these acres of diamonds available for investment properties to get return on your money.
Yeah.
But one thing that I found out from other recessions is that the rich people that are working their asses off, that don't ever have time for a vacation, when the market turns, they have time for a vacation. And where are they going to go? The rich people that go for a vacation to someplace like here and says, wow, this is great, what do? They buy a piece.
Mm-hmm.
The people that own these acres of diamonds don't really realize that because they've owned them so long that they're free and clear. So they're truly acres of diamonds, because when you get banks that will now lend money on this property, because the state allows you to rent it short term, you can now have a bigger value on that property. Underneath that land is that cash you've been sitting on for years because you don't owe any money on it. And you can actually build a new house on that acre of diamonds that you live in, and then sell the house, which increases the value of your land plus the house. So you actually have a way to come out of this recession.
There it is again.
With your own acres of diamonds.
Yes.
If they happen to be in an area where people want to be, like the beaches, like the mountains, like resort areas. So if you take all these things right here, you have time to reevaluate your life. You have time to learn about specific areas. You don't want to learn about areas that you're not really interested in. Focus on the areas you are interested in. The top-notch players in the real estate business that are getting tired after being around all this time and getting out of the business, there's a lot of room for people to move into this business.
Very true.
So,
all right, so
this whole thing's okay if I didn't use the recession word.
you can use it all the time. I hope there's not the time that's appropriate, and I think we have a decent shot that it's not going to be appropriate.
Tell me a couple of reasons why it would not be appropriate.
Because I think as quickly as it went down, it can come back up. That's a short version.
Just one airline in a month with what they've already cut back is talking about $80 billion a month in lost income.
Right. Well, I think there's going to
Boeing
be...
is talking about shutting down their factory because they know that even when it comes back, they're not going to be able to produce the amount of airplanes that
Boeing's
have
up
taken.
one of the top 3 stocks today. Up.
Yeah, because it was one of the number one stock down 2 days ago.
It's going to be bailed out, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, here's the thing. In the long run, remember Bank of America, all those ass kickings everybody got?
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be some people that do not emerge from this, and there's no mistake about that. It's not going to be pretty. There's a lot of small businesses going to be in deep trouble that won't make payroll, that can't deal with it because you have no choice but to shut down. Now, will the government step in? Probably, because they just print billions and trillions of dollars, and they're going to have no choice. Now, I truly do hope that there's drastic measures taken to make sure people don't get hurt right now. And I think that the biggest drastic step that could be taken is what Italy did and forced the banks to suspend mortgage payments.
Mm-hmm.
And if they could do that, then that would take a lot of pressure off a lot of people and allow the landlords to not enforce the rents, which allow the businesses to stay around a little bit longer, hopefully to make it. Right? It's going to take something drastic like that to stop this massive downward spiral. But something will happen from a stimulus perspective to get people back, because it has to.
Well, see, you notice the countries that are going bankrupt because of this, because they haven't exercised their right to print money as much,
Right?
like we have.
Yeah.
So when you have everybody bailing out everybody by some method, which is printing money,
Yeah.
your dollars are worth less
Yeah.
money, right?
Well,
So-
I think as a parting thought, I think this is a great time for the country to go bankrupt, but that's a whole other conversation we can have. But I think that might be the end game
Yeah,
there.
we could. Chapter
Which
11.
would change everything. Try reorg. Oh, I know I owe you a couple $1 trillion, but how about $1.50?
Well,
If not, check out this red button right here. You want to see what it does? Right? It's a pretty good leverage position there. But something like that's going to have to happen, because it's just, there's no other way.
Well, that's pretty, with all your positiveness here about there not being a recession.
There's not.
The country's going bankrupt, or we're going to blow up the world and put a huge threat on.
I never said that. It was simply an implication. It was an option. You had a choice. Would you like to sign this piece of paper, or you want me just to kind of deal with my little arm movement I have over here?
Okay, Mr. Younger generation.
All right, what's the advice for people that are watching that are freaking out right now? What do you have?
I don't know. I don't know, but what I do know is that we're in a cooling off period. Chill out, enjoy your family. we get to rethink our life. Are we going in the right direction? What could we do different if this happened again sometime? If we're in school, should we reevaluate what we're doing? Release of daily pressure. I'd say maybe you shouldn't watch the news so much.
Yeah.
But there is a way to calm down. I mean, you spent time with your kids more in the last week than you have in 3 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you know, if you're always thinking about what's happening, you got to chill out a little bit. Reduce competition. It's going to be, because some people will give up, and I'm urging people that are in the real estate business that I don't think it was a lot of fun being in the real estate business the last 10 years. I think you'll be worth a lot more money being in business for the next 3 years than the 10 years, and we're going to regain our image, I think, as an industry.
Mm-hmm.
Because the stock market, everybody was going to the stock market, and then it went crazy.
Yeah.
All right, real estate has not gone crazy. It's the sanity part of this thing right now. And it won't go crazy for a while. The bottom isn't going to fall out of real estate. It'll go down some, but not too much. The value of the agents, the way you feel about yourself, will be much better. Being with a company like ours that teaches all the time will be a good thing. Great deals. The great deals are out there like crazy. We're looking at new concepts. I'm looking at building houses and factories that would be like a product that you could order like from Amazon to buy a house on the beach. Mm-hmm. We're looking at building stronger houses. We're looking at all the problems with the weather that people are building substandard housing. We're looking at the houses that we're building being cheaper to build because the subs will be out of work and we'll need the work, and
Sure.
we'll have to get better subs because we're not going to pick people that are unqualified. The great financing, that's when the Fed rate dropped to 0. That came out of the blue.
On a
We
Sunday.
never thought we would do that.
Yeah. And that wasn't enough.
No, and the stock market went down 2,000
Yeah.
points the next day.
Yeah.
The great state of Florida. My biggest fear of the state of Florida is the potential lack of water from the people that are moving into the state, which may be good for us because we're going to have to do something with our water supply.
Desal it up.
And looking at the problems of agriculture in the state, and maybe this red tide thing, and clean up our state so we don't have any risk from that. The global warming stuff, if you looked at the pictures that came out of China that showed what was it? You saw it.
I saw it. Now the pictures.
All red around the
haze,
the
and
cars, and
the pollution, the smog,
and with it shut down, there was none of that.
blue skies and birds.
So right now, traveling from here to Tampa, I just had a guy come over from Tampa today. I said, "How was the traffic?" Non-existent. It was wonderful. So if you look at that over Florida, you're going to see much less pollution in the state, right? Especially when people are losing their cars and all that. So the great state, the great beaches, and the acres of diamonds. So I think the career that we're in and the location that we live in and the future that we have is acres of diamonds 100%.
Now I'm going to add one thing to this, which is not my normal optimistic self. That if you're in this business right now,
it doesn't have anything to do with pushing the red button.
it's a choice, right? It's a choice. You had the choice of which you wanted to do: sign or die, and your choice. Right? But to that point, this market just changed. The game completely changed. The market is completely different, and you can argue if you want to. Everything's fine. I just sold another house today. Okay, good. Just sit back and wait a few days.
The market has changed. And the people that are in the market don't know what to expect because it hasn't changed in the whole time they've been in the real estate business.
Right. So my urging of warning is if you don't change what you're doing, you're dead. Like, you will not have income to the point where you do not have income. And we spent all morning this morning, Craig, myself, and Mike Puma, and I'm going to get your input on this after this, designed what we're doing on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. We're doing a 2-hour Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday broadcast, right, on what to do. And it's segregated. If you're a newbie, if you don't do this, you're out of business, right? If you're a mid-level, 5 to 11 deals or so last year, if you don't do this, you're out of business. And top agents, most importantly, if you don't do this, you're out of business. And it's called an emergency. It's an emergency next level university from 10 to 12, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, depending on your production level. If you guys want access to it, it's free. We don't want anything from you. All we're doing is trying to help, obviously, from doing this stuff. But we'll give you access into the conference rooms. And we're doing it completely remotely.
How do they get it? The access?
Email me or you, and that you want the link, and we'll send you the link. But you're welcome to join it because you're part of the tribe here. But I can't stress the urgency that a lot of people don't realize what happened yet, and it's not going to be pretty for the momentary, for this little blip. And I'm not going R on this one. I'll defend my non-recession statement right now. But I will say there's going to be 6 months of a shitstorm, certainly a month or two of a shitstorm majorly, and then it's likely a little more than that. But it's not going to be the
Would
end
a
of the
buyer or
world.
seller want to look at this?
No, because they can. Transparency, you're welcome to see whatever you want to do, because it basically changes the way we're going to have to deal with buyers and sellers, and it's already changed. It's changed. So if you want in, let us know. Come in. We'll make room for you. It is limited, so let us know, because we'll have 500 people in the room.
Is something coming at some point where we may have to represent either a buyer or seller?
I don't know.
Don't know. This might be a good chance.
If somebody wants to push it, well.
Okay, so
We're gonna
someone
have to
that's
play.
watching or from another company or whatever.
I don't care what company you're with.
Jeff Beggins at c21be.com.
Easy. Jeff Beggins, c21beggins.com.
Okay.
Jeff Beggins, Gmail. I don't care which one you use. But if you want a link, do it. Same thing. Jim Beggins at c21beggins. Monday 10 to 2, Tuesday 10 to 2, Wednesday 10 to 2, and you're our guest. Just come in. But if you don't change, you're dead. And I can't say that any nicer, and I can't be any more serious about it. But if you don't change now, you're dead.
All right, give me a hint. I'm a person that's did 5 deals the last year, and I'm fairly comfortable in doing it, and mostly buyers. And what am I gonna learn? 5 deals.
You're going to learn that you better go to work, and you now have a brand new business, because
But
of
5
those
deals is
5
pretty
deals,
much,
5
right?
deals is great. But here's the problem with the 5 deals that you did. One came from cousin Joey, who was playing soccer with
How'd you know?
somebody, right? Another one came from an open house you did from Linda, who had a listing in your office, right? The other one came because you were at a bar with your name tag on.
Mm-hmm.
And all of this is not duplicatable business creation lead gen, right? And so every one of those 3 were layups.
Because I was hanging out.
Because you're hanging out. And the frequency that's going to happen has stopped, right? So you have to get very deliberate and very serious about how you generate business with a capital B right now, because they're going to be scarcer, and they're going to be they have to be dealt with a whole different way. So we're going to deal with how are you dealing with people.
Are there going
in
to be a
today's
lot
scenario.
more buyers or a lot more sellers?
Yep.
Yep, both. All right, so which one you deal with?
There's going to be, let me change that. There's going to be difference, because especially, I'm just talking about the near term, right? I don't think too far out on purpose, because
I don't think any of us can, because it's changing so rapidly.
that's why we do next level, right? Every quarter, and that's not frequent enough. So we're going to have to change that. So when we started next level in January, said we're not going to even talk about 6 months from now. We're going to all get together again in March and figure out Q2. Guess why? Because we have no clue the landscape 3 months from now. Because to my point, the market 3 months from now will be totally different than it is right now. Right now, it is arguably extremely shitty, and let me not say shitty. It's confusing and it's paused. Right? You may argue, it's fine. I broke 4 deals yesterday. Good. Hold that thought till next week. Right? But it's paused, and people in confusion do nothing.
You did a great next level university in January.
Yeah.
And what you would do next week is going to have
Completely
no
different.
resemblance.
It's
to
a
what
different
you did in
industry.
January.
It's a completely different industry in March 25th, 2020 than it was on January 25th, 2020. I'm not talking even, it's slight resemblances, but completely different way to generate business, completely different way to pre-qualify, completely different way to show, completely different way to preview, completely different way to price, complete different conversations with clients. I mean,
Okay, just to add to that, the 4 recessions that I've been in were identical to that with the reaction that you just gave, because it's a totally different industry, an up market versus a down market.
yeah.
And so you were teaching in January in an up market, you're going to be teaching a whole new subject,
In a sideways
whole new
market.
career.
And this
Or sideways going down.
I'll call this a sideways slope market, right?
Okay.
It's not down yet,
All right.
but it's trending that way like pretty quickly.
Okay, so you know, you may be right. You're in a sideways market for next week, and you
Yeah,
may
for
be
next
in a
week.
totally down market next month, and you may be in a totally up market 3 months from now. And,
That's right.
And you're in the same industry, but it's a whole different method of operation.
Which is why I'm excited, because you taught us we work our asses off and we're constantly in the middle of the game nonstop. And there's not another leadership group that is in this shit as deep as we are and that knows how to react. Now, we don't have all the answers, but we're smart enough to figure it out. And we're in the middle of it nonstop, so we will figure it out, I believe, faster than anybody else does. So that's one of the reasons we've got a lot of decent, good recruits this week, because the simple question I asked was, in this uncertainty, weird period of time, you better rely on somebody who knows what the fuck they're doing, excuse my language, over the next certain near term. And you better check the credentials of your team leader, right, or your manager, or even your broker who started their whatever.com 4 years ago. Right? They don't know what the hell they're doing in an evolving industry. So you better get on board with somebody who actually knows what to do and will keep you calm. And we always come out of these things better, right? It's stressful, figure it out, but we know what we're doing. We've got the finances, we got the know-how, we got the ability, and we're going to do it.
Can you find out in the last 10 years how many brokerages started?
Oh, God.
Because those would know absolutely nothing about what we're going into.
Zero.
Correct?
Zero. And the Wall Street meetings about, am I going to throw another $170 million at a company that will have no foreseeable profits? Bye. Right? All those, it's time. See it, pack it up. So this is back to roll the sleeves up, hand-to-hand combat, guys. It's time to go to work.
So next week, you're going to come out with specifics for each group?
Yeah. If you're
And
0
the
to
three
5,
levels, 0 to 5.
0 to 5, 5 to 11, and a deal a month. If you're top agent, you're closing at least 1 deal a month, you're not allowed in Wednesday's meeting. If you've done more than 5 deals, you're not allowed on Monday. And if you've done middle 5 to 11 deals, you're allowed on Tuesday. So newbie, 0 to 5, intermediate, right?
How about people that are thinking of coming into the business? You're going to scare the hell out of them? Or?
Yeah, I hope so. Because unless I'm going to fire some up and I'm going to scare the crap out of a bunch. If you think it's looking pretty and flipping your hair on Instagram and TikTok, and because you're cute, you're going to get a deal, bye, right? If you actually have some business savvy, and or at least the ability to learn it and come to work and actually use business concepts to grow a business, you're going to crush it. But you have to come to work, and you have to work, and you have to focus in a niche and talk about what we're doing. The opportunity never been, we're going to crush it during this uncertainty time, because we're certain to know what to do. And most people are going to sit there with their thumbs up their ass trying to figure out what's going on. And you can't, if you don't react quickly. If you don't react quickly now, you will be out of business.
If you
Just in this little window.
On Instagram, do you not even want to come into business, or can they do that?
You
and
can
still
do it, but you need to install business savvy into the hair flips, right? Hair flips is just a marketing strategy. It's not your whole business plan. It used to be just the whole business plan.
Are you aging yourself?
No.
My son is aging.
Yeah, it is. It's happening. It's happening. But that's where the gray hairs come from, all the shit that we go through every day.
So how are you handling all this?
Yeah, honestly, it's interesting. I've got a 4-month-old and a 4-year-old, which makes my decision-making process totally different than it was last time.
Yeah.
Right? Completely differently. But it's interesting. But I've been saving up for this opportunity, so I don't have to stress out about a shitstorm. I can ride it out, which was intentional. But now I get to figure out, how do you capitalize on it? How do you emerge from this stronger than you were before? But that takes a strong mindset, and I've been working a lot on that, as you know, right? To try to do that, and that takes a lot, and that's what kind of we help instill in the agents too. I mean, I went through yesterday the worst case scenario exercises, right? To figure out, okay, you and I personally, we have a lot of investments right now. If this market does hit your elusive R word or D word, we're totally fucked, right? Potentially.
It's not what I think. I think we're fine.
Some particular investments, if they stop producing cash, there will be issues, right? If we can't build because all commercial lending stops. Now, I'm taking worst case scenario, but let's go there for a second. Worst case scenario, all domestic travel is stopped, everything is frozen, everybody's on quarantine for the next 60 days. Possible? Possible. Unlikely, but possible. If that were to happen, and somebody wants to build one of these houses, we got the floor plan sitting right here. Nobody funds it, nobody finances it. How many months do you go carrying that one until you say, okay, we'll just go do something else later?
Like we did before, we go all the way down the chain and say, I can't pay you now, I can't pay you now, I can't pay you now, and then I'll pay you later.
We got a hotel. If hotel is completely shut down, how many months do you deal with that check until you say, yeah, we'll just do something else?
We open it up for people with the virus to hang out.
Right, so you adapt.
Yeah.
But worst case scenario, and this is, I think, is an important exercise to go through. What I did yesterday is said, okay, all income stops, everything crashes and burns, and you've got nothing. Right, this isn't a positive thinking, but this is a very important aspect too. And you know what, as you do this too. It all happens. You lose everything completely. There's people that's going to happen to, right? And it could happen to more people than they expect to happen to there if things don't sort itself out. But you got to go through that complete worst case scenario. And what would I do? That's the question I asked myself, which is a tough scenario to hold your own hand down this path. And you wiped out everything. You lost your house. You lost every investment. The business shut down. You're completely wiped out. You got 2 kids. They're hungry. And what do you do? Right. So if you unravel,
that's exactly what I did. You were 4.
Right. Well, there you go, Kai, repeating this. So, but the question is, what do you do? And I think that's an important question to go through. Like, what do you do? At that
What
point,
was your answer? I was hoping you were going to give an answer.
Well, I have an answer. The answer is you deal with it and you go to work. Mm-hmm. That's the answer, right? So, if something bad were to happen, you deal with it and you go to work. So what I'm pressing now is deal with it and go to work now so you don't have to go through that exercise. But in the event it did happen, no big deal. Go to work, build it back. So one of your favorite lines, last time I was getting destroyed in something, was that no one's going to eat you, right? They can't eat you.
They can't eat you. Well, so, maybe. Not sure about this one, this time.
But, that's the whole thing. So you've got to come to grips with what could be the worst case scenario, and realize that you're okay if that were to happen, and you're going to be fine and come out the other end. And so when you can come to peace with that scenario, then it suddenly brings a little calm to your world. That because it already has happened to you, right? So when I did that thing with me yesterday, then I actually went through that and experienced the loss and the feelings of what it would be if that were to happen. So I've already done it, which means I don't have to fear it because I've already thought about what would happen if that were to happen. And I'm okay with it, and I could deal with it. So with that fear gone, it creates the calm to say, bullshit, I'm not going to let that happen, right? And what steps can I take right now to have that not happen? And it is, like you said, it's adapt contingency plans for every business, every investment, talk with the owners, talk with the sellers, talk to everybody involved and say, guys, shit might hit the fan. How are we going to work on this together, right? That's what you do with your management team. That's what you do with your investment partners. That's what you do with everybody. So go down the path and then say, okay, how do I contingency my way out of this thing to make it work out? Right? So
great way to end.
There you go. So chill out.
The end is a new beginning. So thank you for being my guest.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I'll see you all next week.
Hey, you're responsible if you allow a recession. Here's the thing. Do not participate in the downturn. It's your choice. Right? If you're right now thinking about what you're going to Netflix out in your house for the next week, you're already out of business. This is not Netflix moment. This is get your ass to work moment. Talk to people and find out who's still thinking about buying and selling right now and reach out to them, right? Or you're going to have some shit coming your way. That's my parting statement.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you so much. See you.
We hit quite a few topics here today.